episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, I am fired up, Shane. We got some exciting stuff coming down with news, podcast, business news. We'll reveal that at a later date, but very soon. And we got 7, Shane, count them, 7 SEC games upcoming. I'm just excited as I've ever been, probably.
Yeah, it's October, baby. There better not be any weddings planned this Saturday because we're going to be busy. We got college football. Is the Yankees done? Because they're done. They're dead to me right now. This is college football. We got 7 fantastic ball games. I am looking forward to it, brother.
Yeah, like you said, the weather's great. The chili's, in the slow cooker. We got a case of beer in the fridge. I mean, this is literally the best time of the year, and I'm ready to talk some SEC football. How about you?
Absolutely, brother. Let's do it.
Well, all right, let's start with, hey, this is the game Shane CBS thought would be the game of the week, but maybe not necessarily the case. Texas A&M at Alabama. Let's focus on Alabama first of all, Shane. Bryce Young, of course, got banged up in the win over Arkansas. Don't know if he's going to be able to play. But let me ask you this, Shane, because what we saw of Jalen Milroe, it's been brief, but he looks like a very promising prospect. He's obviously an elite runner. Not yet proven that he can win a game throwing the ball. But do you think they'll even need to against Texas A&M? What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think they will need to. One thing, Texas A&M's not had a lot of good things going for them right now.
Yeah.
But one thing they have is that defensive side of the ball. So I'm fully expecting them to force him to throw the ball. I'm expecting him to load up the box and dare them to win with his arms. And that, I think, if you're going into this matchup, that's what you got to do if you're Jimbo, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, because, again, he's not proven anything. And who knows? I mean, maybe he's got 3 turnovers in him, and that's exactly what you need. Again, maybe I'm being deceived because I was kind of rooting for it, but I really thought Arkansas was going to win that game last week, Shane, when Milroe had to go in. Not that he's a bad player, but obviously he's not the Heisman Trophy winner. There's only one Bryce Young, and
right.
Arkansas was scoring. They had that momentum, but again, we got to credit Jalen Milroe for making the big play of the game. Sam Pittman and Nick Saban both said it after the game. That was the play of the game, his big run. So he's certainly, Jalen Hurts is the comparison you get, I think, for obvious reasons because they both suited up for Alabama. But if they get anything close to Jalen Hurts, they're going to be just fine with old Jalen Milroe back there. You know what?
I think so too. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not worried about Alabama in this game. And I don't know if there's any Texas A&M fans listening now that you've been on Paul Feinbaum, Mike. But I think the fact of the matter is, Jimbo. I mean, he's on the hottest of hot seats. And I know we've got the $80 million buyout, but they're going to find ways. If they don't want you at the end of the season, they're going to find ways. And I think that's got to register down there. And in his mind, he's going to have to do something different. He's going to have to get creative. How do you shut the nation up? You beat Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. That's what you do. This is something they were able to do last year. So, there's a lot of question marks coming out of College Station, but for me, Mike, personally, the biggest news is the fact that Alabama is down the starting Heisman quarterback. We got a quarterback back there, that was a plug and play and did great, but again, this is something that Alabama or Arkansas really scripted for. Texas A&M has. They know he's mobile. They know they're going to try to establish the run. If you take that away from them, they're going to have to think outside the box. They are going to have to pass. So I think this is the perfect storm for Jimbo. Honestly, if I was going to play Alabama, this is exactly how I would have dialed it up. Get enough tape on the guy we're going against, but, you're still going against the backup quarterback here.
Yeah, and if you recall, Shane, I mean, it was damn near identical last season. Alabama was playing Ole Miss, undefeated Ole Miss. Remember, and Ole Miss was flying high, and that was my annual. I'm picking at Alabama to be upset in a game, and they just trashed Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin. They forgot to plug in the popcorn. Then they roll into this A&M game. A&M had lost to Arkansas. We're saying, what the hell is wrong with A&M? This, Jimbo is he the guy? And then he turns right, and we can't forget Jimbo. You remember that offseason? Said we're gonna whoop his ass, and everybody was like, whoa, you can't be saying this about Nick Saban. Well, he backed it up. Everybody was saying, oh, Nick's gonna make him pay. He's got Bryce Young. He's got Will Anderson. Well, it didn't matter, brother. And I know that game was in College Station, but that was the best game A&M played all season. Everybody's calling them out. Hell, like you said, I'm on Feinbaum, national television, calling out their coach. What are the odds, Shane? They got nothing to lose in this game. Everybody's going to be counting them out. Maybe they come up with more up-tempo, fast pace, because that seemed to click something in a couple of their games. And maybe they just play carefree. They don't turn the ball over. And, again, they got that psychology, Shane. They have beaten Alabama 9 times out of 10. When Alabama takes a field, it's against someone they've beaten 14 in a row, 15 in a row, or 9 out of 10, or whatever the heck it is. But this team right here, I know it's different teams, but a lot of those players have taken a field with Alabama, and they've come away with a win. Does that help the Aggies at all, you think?
I think so, Mike. I mean, it's scripted perfectly, like I said. That's when I think of teams like Arkansas and Texas A&M right now, they're just out there to ruin seasons. I mean, they're not going to go to the SEC championship. They're not going to win a national championship, unless a lot of things go your way. But you can really disrupt the entire SEC week in, week out. I think that kind of loosens you up. Be a little bit more aggressive. You're going to see more fourth down calls. You're going to see a little more dialed up blitzes, and I just think that's where we're at right now, and that freedom, sometimes it bites you, but sometimes, man, it pays dividends. So I think if you're like I said, if you're Jimbo, you're the Texas A&M, you need something. You need a lightning strike. You need to get this fan base back behind you. And like I said, this is it. This is the SEC championship. This is their national championship. They win this game, people stop talking about firing Jimbo because you beat Nick Saban 2 years in a row.
Now, let's kick it over to Nick Saban real quick, Shane. I got a question for you on the other side.
It's one thing to know you're one snap away from entering the game as a starting quarterback, but how do you think that Jalen handled that transition from going from the bench to the game?
Well, we try to put him in other games so he gets the opportunity to play. So it's not the first time he ever goes in a game. But hopefully that's what you try to do is prepare guys so when they get an opportunity, they're ready to play. That's why you try to get guys really good game experience. So if they have to play, they feel more comfortable going into the game. But you'll have to ask him how he felt. I can't answer that question. I just know as a coach what we try to do to prepare him so that they feel like at least psychologically they're in the right place to go out there and read things and make the right choices and decisions. It's why we practice. It's why we give guys experience. And we've been fortunate that, Jalen got a pretty good bit of experience, in these first few games.
Yes, Coach. I was wondering, it seems like all good teams at some point in the season have a really tough game. And even if you win it, do you get something out of that, an intangible later on, or is there any record of that, I guess, that you would say you do or don't?
Well, I would say that, we've only had, 2 teams around here in 15 years that have gone undefeated. That didn't mean that the teams that lost a game necessarily didn't have, in some cases, the same amount of success as the other. All right, the question is do you need to lose a game to learn? Do you need to lose a game to get it right? Do you need to lose a game to say it's important to practice the right way, do things the right way, take care of myself the right way? The middle of the season is not the time to think about getting rest. You rest at the end of the season. All right, the season is a grind. Practice is a grind. Preparation is a grind, mentally and physically on players. But you got to make a choice. Are you going to grind through that and continue? Or can you learn from the lessons when you win as well as when you lose? Or do you have to lose to learn the lessons? And I think that's a dynamic that every team has to prove that they can continue to do these things over the course of the season.
And obviously, if we talk about just you touched today on headlines, I want to know when you have those moments, and obviously this happened in the off season, but when you have those moments when there's all this criticism and outside noise, how have you learned to handle that when this noise has gotten so loud? And how do you help your players navigate those distractions as it only becomes worse?
Well, obviously, at times we haven't handled it very well because, I was talking about rat poison last year when we played this game. Nobody would listen. Players wouldn't listen. You all didn't listen. They had lost the week before. We were big favorites. It was like no big deal. Just show up for this game, go play the next game. And I don't get affected by it because I don't listen to you all. I really don't have any interest in what anybody thinks about any of this stuff. I do have an interest in how it affects and impacts the players on our team. And I think it does. And I think they have to show maturity in how they manage it and know that external opinion, external noise, whatever you want to call it, rat poison, whatever it is, absolutely has nothing to do with the outcome of the game. Just like fans have nothing to do with the outcome of the game. They don't block, they don't tackle, they don't catch passes, they don't make sacks. All they do is make noise. And if you want to take them out of the game, just play well, execute, and then they won't be there. They'll leave. So these are external factors that cannot affect how you think as a competitor in terms of respecting winning, respecting what you have to do to win, and how important it is. Knowing that we're going to get the other team's best game because they can all get well beating us. So that's how I try to handle it. Does anybody listen? Sometimes, sometimes not.
Nick Saban ain't happy. Ain't happy.
Yeah, so after hearing that, Shane, ooh, boy, I mean, the way I put it is A&M better be locked in because it sure as hell seems like Nick Saban is going to have his team locked in this ball game, don't you think?
Well, I think for all the positive things we said about Jimbo winning last year, you could easily turn it as a negative because Nick Saban can turn on that tape and say, hey, this is exactly what happened last season. We overlooked these guys. We're going to get beat. We don't want to get beat, So I think this is the rap. And Nick Saban, he's been kind of pleasant in his meetings, but not this week, brother. And I don't know if that's because Bryce is hurt or he's going against Jimbo and he hates his guts. He's not on his basketball team anymore and, shit like that. This game is personal to Nick Saban, and I think part of that is why it's bleeding out into the media here. But have we got an update on Bryce? What you mentioned the other day, I was listening. You talked about there's 5 different sprains, and then you never followed up with which one he had. So I kept thinking to myself, well, which sprain does he have? What are we looking? I know we're day to day is what they're saying, but you've got some medical knowledge there, Mike. I'm just curious, how long before Bryce is back in pads?
That is the unknown, Shane. They're not revealing the grade of that sprain. So, it could be on the very low scale. It could be on the very high scale. And if it's on the high, then he's going to be out a little while. You know what I mean? But if it's on the lower, like Saban's saying, day to day, he's dealt with this before. It sure as hell looked like he was out. I know they put the helmet on him, but it didn't look like he could go back on the field against Arkansas. Maybe that was just precautionary. But again, do you even need him? I hate to I hate to insult A&M or anything, but do you need him more here to win against A&M at home, who's struggling to put 20 points on the board, or do you rest him for Tennessee on the road where you're going to have to score? You have to imagine 30, 35, maybe even 40 points to beat the Vols. I mean, it certainly seems like this is a game that you rest Bryce Young if possible.
Oh, my God. Can you I mean, think about what you just said. I mean, if you would have told me that 10 weeks ago, I called you an idiot, Mike. We're going to arrest him during Texas A&M so we can use him against Tennessee. Just listen to that. Golly, it's the 90s again, baby. I love it.
Now, last thing on this game, Shane, let's kick it over to Jimbo real quick where I don't know, maybe he's just keeping things close to the vest, but I'm not a big fan of some of these comments he had here.
Hey, why has it been so hard offensively for them to relax? Do they look comfortable in practice and it doesn't show in games? Or
I don't think they're not relaxed. Just got to relax. Sometimes you want to try when you're young and you got young guys in critical positions. That sometimes they just want to try too hard. I don't know. I mean, we talk to them every day, give them confidence. They do it in practice every day, and just got to relax and play.
Yeah, Jimbo, what is it that makes you so optimistic that the execution is coming and not
because I know the guys in practice. I see them practicing. I see them do it. I see them just got to eventually just got to take it to the field. Been in the business long enough to watch have young players and had teams that done this before, and you just got to keep coaching them. And because I know the ability is there, their want to is there, their habits, their work habits, all the things. They're tremendous kids, and we have to do a good job of coaching and put it there. And just my time being in here and knowledge of doing it and done it for many years, and I believe in our players 100%.
And do you still believe 100% in DJ and his defensive scheme?
Sure do.
All right, Shane. So, again, maybe, who knows? Maybe the Aggies bust out like the Wildcat package with Devon Auchain and they do something crazy this week. And of course, he's not going to reveal that in a setting like this. But, man, if I'm struggling like they are, I'm out here saying, man, we got to rework. We got to blow this up. We got to do this. We got to do that. And we'll get it done. But instead, it seems like it seems like he thinks he's a – I'm not trying to pile on him here, but
I know
it just seems like he's saying, "Well, it ain't my fault." They got to do better.
That's exactly what I said. At this moment in the season, it's like, can you not plead the fifth? Can you not, just be like Marshawn? I'm just here so I don't get fined. Just ask those, this type of answering is infuriating if you're an Aggie fan. I want accountability. My team is not doing as well as it should. We should be undefeated right now. That's what the Aggies think. And I need answers. And coming out here and saying, well, practice went well. Who gives a shit about practice? I want to know what happened during the game. Where did we mess up? Where do we go from here? Give me some positive insight in that everything's going to be okay. I'm not getting that from Jimbo, and I know that's not the point of these damn rally calls, but come on, man, you need it. This fan base needs it, and so maybe they just bring it to the field. But until then, this is just garbage talk to me.
Yeah. All right, Shannon. What should be the game of the week in the SEC? Tennessee undefeated. Oh, baby, you love when I say undefeated, so I'm gonna keep saying it. Them undefeated Vols on the road at LSU. And Shannon, we rewatched Auburn LSU this morning. Man, what a game that was. But I'm hearing a lot from Tennessee fans, Shane. Well, my God, they let this Auburn quarterback throw all over them. They nearly lost to a terrible West team. But it's difficult to win on the road in the SEC, particularly at night. I'm not trying to excuse that, but they did get the win. They were down 17-0. They came back, stormed back, scored 21 consecutive. But I think that's a credit, Shane, to Brian Kelly and his coaching staff, Jaden Daniels. He may be the most – I'm not saying he's the best player. I'm not saying he's like a Heisman guy or anything, but he may be the most valuable player right now in the SEC to his team, because I don't know where LSU would be without him. But as Brian Kelly, we'll get to his comments here in a second, says, we can't have 5 passing yards. That's not going to cut it against the teams that we got on his schedule. And he's looking right at Tennessee. They have got to be able to manufacture some offense. So I guess my question to you, Shane, is how dangerous do you consider this LSU team, which is not even playing that well? They're playing really well in second halves. They've not even put together a full, complete game, Shane, yet they're sitting here undefeated in the SEC, 4-1. And if they play like they do in the fourth quarter for an entire game, hell, they could probably beat anybody on their schedule.
Yeah. No, I mean, what rank is LSU now?
I think they're like 23, 24, something like that.
I mean, how do you 25 actually top 25 though, Mike? You know, how do you overlook the LSU Tigers right now? I think the best thing that could have happened for Tennessee is the LSU to win these games because LSU's been, they've been good every game. I mean, not great, not fun to watch, but they find ways to get the victory. In fact, they really found a way, even in Florida State week 1. They should have won that game, with stupid mistakes. But they're cleaning those up along the way, and I think that is very good for programs because LSU was a sneaky trap game for a lot of programs, Tennessee included. It's a noon game. We're going to go down there. We're saying the same old thing. I only threw 5 yards. What? They're not going to be able. We did the same thing with Florida. We did the same thing with Pitt.
Yep.
We make them little smaller than they are, but then next thing you know, we're in the throes of things.
Right.
And so I think after a couple of those, you can't overlook anybody, especially in the SEC West in particular. So this is a monumental game, and it's that rat poison. And it, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not hanging out with the guys and shitting on LSU right now. But if that's what's going on up there, then be careful, buddy. There's a reason that Vegas does not have this a 3-score, outlook. And that should be your telltale sign that this is going to be a hell of a matchup.
Right, and LSU, they got that ground game going. Florida had success on Tennessee. LSU's got a hell of a lot better receivers than than Florida right now. We just saw what Florida did to Tennessee.
And the defensive linemen, Mike. There's a
Absolutely.
real shot. They live in the backfield of Tennessee. So, those we don't have time for those routes to get open. So that's another thing to worry about.
Right, and now LSU, maybe you're not quite suited to take advantage of Tennessee's secondary because of the lack of a downfield passing game. But Jaden Daniels, Shane, very similar to Hendon Hooker, he's not turning the ball over, no interceptions this entire season. Now, maybe he's being a little too careful with the football. You'd certainly rather your quarterback be careful than aggressive and turning the ball over. But this is a game where, again, it may turn into a shootout, and they're going to have to put up some points. I really do think, because you're not gonna hold Tennessee under 20 points. It seems very unrealistic. You know what?
Yeah, but that's the game plan, Mike. It's ground and pound, run the clock, try to hold the possession as long as possible, make Tennessee, force them to 3 and outs. That's the script for beating Tennessee. But it's easier said than done, because if Tennessee does have 2 or 3 great possessions like they've had all year long, and you're down 3 scores, this isn't a program that can just bounce back and rally and tie it up. So that's if I'm LSU, my biggest fear is getting behind. But if they can stay ahead of the chains and keep possession of the ball, then that's the formula for beating the Volunteers.
I don't think many people before the season would have believed through 5 games Kayshawn would have no touchdowns and fewer than 100 yards receiving. Why has he struggled to get going?
Yeah, I think that's – look, part of this is building trust with a new quarterback. Obviously we're trying to get him the football. He's getting a lot of double coverage. We're still winning. He's happy that we're winning. Look, all those guys that make decisions about who the best receivers are in the country are still going to look at Kayshawn and go, that's a really, really good wide receiver. Numbers are numbers. At the end of the day, he's going to continue to play this game at the next level, and the numbers won't dictate where he gets drafted. It's his ability to continue to play the game at the highest of levels, and when you turn on the film and he's running full speed and he's beating guys and the ball didn't come to him for some whatever reason, that's out of his control. So what Kayshawn continues to do better each and every week is he controls what he can control. And he does that in practice now, and he does that in games. He was happy we won the football game. Would he like the ball more? Absolutely. Would I like to get it to him more? Absolutely. But he's handled himself in the right way, and he continues to work for the team.
Ryan, sort of building off the passing game, I guess, discussion, there hasn't been much of a downfield vertical threat, I guess, this year. Is there a solution that you have in mind for that, or are you going to kind of have to live with like the quick passing game and just trying to make that more effective than it was against Auburn?
We've had, I mean, if I could give you a video clip of all the, the throws downfield. We've had a number of deep ball throws. They weren't this week. Last week against New Mexico, that was a cover 8. That was short passing game, catch it, run after the catch, threw for over 300 yards. This past weekend was not good enough. That's not going to get you a sustainable offense that can win games at the highest level in the SEC. But that's coaching and that's playing. And what I mean by coaching and playing is we have to prepare better. Our fundamentals have to be better. We have to look at the passing game. Are we doing too much? Are we doing the things that highlight our players? And then in turn, our players have to look at themselves and are they preparing the right way? And is there attention to the details necessary? So this is an all of us together that we need to get better, and the recognition and the awareness that 85 yards is not going to get it done. But it's a new week, and the one thing that doesn't carry over very well in college football is the last week. So we expect to be much better.
How is Daniels physically? And 2, after 5 games, are you where you thought you would kind of be as a team?
Daniels is fine. He had a bursa sack, which is, I don't know the exact, medical deal with that. I wish I could be a little bit more precise and articulate, but it's much more, it's not structural at all, but it's painful. And so he was in pain. And so, he just felt like he was hurting the team being out there. But he felt good yesterday. The exam was clean. We did an MRI just to make sure, and that came back clean. So he's now in a pretty good position where he feels like he's 100%. I never really looked at it relative to the wins and losses piece. What I've looked at is, will we continue to get better each and every week as we go through the season, and can we develop an identity as a football team? And I think that early on we've been able to identify that this football team will fight. It's got grit, and those are traits that sometimes don't ever show themselves during the season. So yeah, I think we're ahead of it, because to go on the road and be down 17-0 and come back and win, that means that your program is establishing character within the ranks, and that to me, puts you on the right path.
Now, on the Tennessee side, Shane, let me ask you this. Obviously, you just beat the Florida Gators. That's not something Tennessee is very used to. That's it's a different story. Josh Heupel and Hendon Hooker in this program, but maybe it's more the fans than anything. But you get that 2 weeks to kind of savor it. Now you're locked into this LSU game. Do you think there'll be any kind of hangover to, I don't want to call it they just won the Super Bowl, but they won like a monumental victory. They got the Smoky Grays are breaking them out. So, I mean, this is a big deal to Tennessee too. But any worry that, hey, we're top 10, there's a target on our back? When's the last time you could say there's been a target on Tennessee's back, any worry that, maybe they're not ready to handle all this success?
No, not really, Mike. And I think I would have been a little – I could have bought into that narrative last week, but the fact we had a bye week.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are talking about the Tennessee-Florida game anymore. I'm sure there's a few of us, I mean, we like our digs, that's what the volunteers. We're all assholes online, But I think right now, them rolling out the Smoky Grays and stuff, that tells me that they're orchestrating ammunition. Get the kids fired up about something, So that's usually when you see these changes of the jerseys, it's not for the fans, it's for that locker room. So no, they're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to wear that gray and go out and get a victory. But yeah, they're not so much the hangover. I just think the bye week was big for Tennessee. And not to mention injuries, Mike. I mean, this was a banged up Tennessee Volunteer team, and Brian talked about earlier in the week. There's a difference between hurt and what do you say? Hurt and injured. Yeah. So I think there was a lot of hurt Volunteers playing the last couple of weeks. So this gave them time to kind of work on those ailments.
Yeah, I know you're a fan of the movie The Program. Shane, sounds like Brian Kelly is too. I think that's a line from that one. But one other thing I wanted to ask you real quick, Shane. Hendon Hooker, is there another quarterback in the country that you want on the road? This is probably going to be a very tight ball game, but you're always going to have the advantage with that guy in the backfield, short of maybe even – you'd rather want him than Bryce Young right now because Bryce is a little banged up. So, maybe that's not fair to include him in that. But, I mean, Tennessee's got that ace in their pocket. Do you got to feel uber confident with Hendon Hooker there?
Yeah, and that's a loaded question, Mike. Can get me in trouble here. So let me dance around this here for a second. For starters, the SEC, I'm extremely biased. I do not watch other conferences unless they're playing one of our SEC teams. So I hear the Stroud guys. I know we've got a couple of OU followers. They're going to come up with their, forget it. I'm just talking exclusively SEC. Now, Bryce, I think right now is playing better than anybody in the country other than the injury, obviously. But if he were healthy, that would obviously be the quarterback you'd want under center. But other than that, Mike, there are some great quarterbacks. Nothing against Kentucky, nothing against, I can hear them now. They're typing, Mike. You got me in this little rap. No. But for what Tennessee does, the style of offense that they play, that's why I think that Hooker is the best option for Tennessee Volunteers. I would not choose if we were picking teams and I knew Heupel's offense and I knew the wide receiver, I knew exactly how we were going to play out, and I had to pick a quarterback out of the 14 quarterbacks. If Bryce was healthy, I'd take him, but if not, I'm taking Hooker.
And I think it's been said to death, Shane, but I just want to get your thoughts on it, and I'll share mine, that getting this game early, massive advantage for Tennessee. I've been down to Baton Rouge for a night game. It was very similar situation to this. It was Hugh Freeze, undefeated, Ole Miss. It was an LSU team I think already had a loss on the season, but I believe they were ranked as well. But it is like a freaking music festival down there in Baton Rouge when they got one of these night games. I mean, it is a party for miles in every direction, and that really does help create a scene. And that I'm not saying that LSU is not on Tennessee's level, but if that is the case, that crowd could be the difference in making that up. How big of an advantage for your Vols do you think it is that you say noon? It's 11 a.m. local time that this game's kicking off. I mean, Tennessee caught the biggest break in the world with this one.
Without a doubt, Mike. It's energy, and people don't think it's real. Go to the freaking game. I've never been to Death Valley, but I have been to a lot of SEC stadiums at night. It's different. It's night and day. You ever watch some of these 12 o'clock games and, you got your offense. It's just kind of hits one of those lulls, one of those dry spells, and it's just you can hear everything. You can hear a pin drop on that field, and it's just the fans aren't as loud. They're just the players aren't as into it. Sometimes these games kind of drag along. Not all of them. We've had some really good 12 o'clock games, but you never get that at night at Death Valley. There is no I can hear everything in the stadium. It is a constant noise. The decibels are elevated just because of the night. It's energy, it's fuel. So if I were LSU, I'd be raising hell that this thing wasn't flexed to a nighttime game, because it's two top 25 teams, Mike. It should not be played. There should be, CBS has that clause where
Yeah.
they could put two games in. I would have been raising hell that this should be included, because how many more times are we going to get to see LSU play at 7 o'clock or 3:30 on a CBS? So that's I would have been calling in some favors for this week, but we're here, and I think it's great for the Vols, and it sucks for LSU.
And I'll tell you, last thing on this, Shane, my dad and I, we were wearing Tennessee gear down there, and it was Ole Miss, like I said, LSU. There were some confused fans down there with they just thought that we were the world's two biggest idiots, you know?
We're at the wrong stadium.
Josh, as you know, LSU's had a couple of comebacks, 13 points, 17 points on Saturday. When a team is able to do that, what does that do for a team, knowing obviously the dynamic in each room is a little bit different?
Well, just for us, you got to understand that if you're up on the scoreboard, it doesn't matter. We talk a lot about playing at 0-0 for 60 minutes. The way they play and compete, no matter what the scoreboard looks like, you have to be prepared for their best for 60 minutes. They are a resilient team. They've done a really good job of creating turnovers, making special teams plays, creating short fields, and flipping the way the game's played here. You can see that from week 1 all the way through this past week.
LSU defensively, what challenges do they present, starting with the front four and B.J. Ojolari, and then the back end with all those transfers?
Yeah, the front four, they're big, physical, long, athletic. They have the ability to apply pressure to the quarterback and break the pocket down. You want to stay out of long yardage situations against them. On the back end, they have a bunch of new bodies to their roster with a bunch of transfers. Those guys have played a lot of football. I think they continue to get more in sync and more comfortable in their scheme. And for us, we got to have balance in what we're doing. So, run game on early downs will be critical. Playing from ahead of the chains is going to be critical in this game.
Josh, with it being 11 a.m. local kickoff time, do you enjoy that? Are you glad that you'll kind of be able to get to business instead of sitting around all day?
Yeah, if you ask coaches everywhere, they say, give me the earliest kickoff possible. For us, it's going to be a great environment. I'm sure it'll be a packed house, and this is a tough place to play. But it's so much about us and our preparation, make sure that we handle things the right way. We got to take care of the football. You can't have penalties. You can't do things that hurt yourself in this football game. It's a really good team that we're playing.
Now, here's what, Shay, we've been hyping up ever since media days here. South Carolina at Kentucky. And, hey, I mean, if you're at the Gamecocks, Shane, you could not have asked for a better situation. Obviously, devastating hurricane, not making light of that. But that kicked your game to Thursday. That means you got extra time to prepare for Kentucky. Kentucky's coming off a tough road loss, their first loss of the season. You just can never tell how these college players are going to react to losing their first ball game. It's a night game. It's a sellout to my knowledge up there, Kroger Field. It's going to be a great environment. I'm not downplaying that at all. But, man, this is a matchup. And Kentucky fans, they get pissed off that anyone even suggests that South Carolina can win this game, and rightfully so. They own the Gamecocks, 7 of the last 8. But this is a game, Shane, where South Carolina, they've not lived up to the hype to this point. This is like a season saver if they can go on the road and pull off this massive upset. And we haven't even mentioned the damn stupid sunglasses comment, all that back and forth. These two staffs hate each other. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be a great game, I think.
Oh yeah, it's at nighttime too, brother. And I think one of the crazy things about this game or this matchup is that off-field banter. It's a big deal, brother. It is a big. These are player coaches, and when the players feed off the coach's energy, which they do if they're that close, then this becomes personal to them. So. Here's a Kentucky team that got hurt. They got embarrassed. They got punched in front of their girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? These guys are pissed. They're not mad. They are freaking pissed off right now. So, a lot of times you think of this as kind of a trap game. I don't think that's not the vibe I'm picking up. I'm picking up from Kentucky that they let one slip away and they're totally embarrassed. Right. And that's dangerous sometimes because they really want to make a statement the week after. South Carolina, again, it's important for them. They had more time to prepare for this thing. They still got they got things they got to work out, but what South Carolina is good at, Kentucky's good at stopping, and that's my only fear in this game is that the matchup couldn't be better for the Wildcats. But the script is out. What worked against didn't work against Ole Miss. Maybe that's something that they can put into their playbook and make work. But this, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I follow too many Kentucky fans and I'm starting to feed off their negative vibes. But like I said, they hate South Carolina. I never knew this until, this season started, that there was kind of that hatred, but it just got magnified. And I guarantee it's being brought up in that locker room day in, day out.
Right. And I'll say this, Shane, if Kentucky can't run against South Carolina, which is currently one of the weakest run defenses in the SEC, man, they have really, really got issues. We got Chris Rodriguez back. He looked like an animal against Ole Miss, breaking tackles. And I mean, he's the only one I've ever seen, Shane, gets hit and he gets like 5. He falls for 5 yards. I don't know how in the hell he does it, but he does it damn near every carry he gets. It is important. This is a huge game for South Carolina, but it's equally, if not more important, for Kentucky, Shane, because they got to prove that, hey, that we could have won Ole Miss, came down to the wire, we made a mistake here or there, but if we clean up a couple things, we beat ourselves. That's what they should be telling themselves. We beat ourselves that week. Let's not let that happen again. Let's run the table. And you may mock that, Shane, but here – we just saw Georgia struggle on the road at Missouri. So if I'm Kentucky, probably on their flight back, they're saying, my God, Georgia about got beat by Missouri. We can beat these guys. We get them at home. That's got to give them a little bit of lift as well. But you just got to hope that Will Levis, his finger is not damaged or anything. Mark Stoops, let's kick it over to him, Shane. It doesn't require surgery, but, I mean, this is one of the best lines Mark Stoops has ever had right here.
You talked about the belief earlier in this team, but I know if you kind of go through your time at Kentucky, the losses can one can turn into two. So how do you keep the belief high? Do you gloss over the mistakes? Do you hammer harder with it? How do you keep them?
No, I mean we'll just it'll be very business-like today. I mean these guys are mature and can handle it. We'll coach them. We'll show them the good, the bad, and the areas where we fell short. I think I'm really not. I mean, I will coach against it and guard against it and talk about it, but one of the first things I said in the locker room was one can't become two. Just everybody's heated and emotional in a big game like that, and our guys know. The belief is there. I think the intensity needs to come back as you get into Game 6. We 6, right? Yeah. You get into Game 6 without a break, and then we're getting banged up. And we have to make sure I find the right balance of continuing to play with that edge, play with the intensity, and continue to try to improve on being physical. I think we are improving, and but also have enough juice in the tank. As you get down, into the middle of this section before we get a break. Get a little bye to try to get some guys healed up.
Do you have an update on Jacquez? And I know Will finished the game, but how's the finger?
Pardon me?
I know Will finished the game, but how is the finger?
It's fine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how would your finger be if it was sideways and you put it back in? And you know what I mean? But it doesn't need surgery. Let's put it that way. So that's a great thing. Yeah.
Mark, with the offensive line, I think some people expected in the summer you'd boost that in the portal like you did in the secondary. Is that just a position where it's harder to find impact transfers, or were you really comfortable with everything you had there?
Well, I think, we were, obviously exploring options, and, I think with, some of the things we've gone through without going through, what we went through with John, was tough. And then we had turnover, that doesn't exactly put you in the best position, but that's no excuse. We got guys that are plenty capable. There's things that we could do better and coach better and play better, and there's some things that they're really improving on, doing some really good things. It's a shame Flaxey went down later because I thought he was physical as heck and starting to really move people and play hard, and so I think that was coming together, better. Sorry, John.
I was just going to ask how you thought they played overall.
Yeah, I think, we you look at it and you give up, 3 sacks against a team again that was bringing it from all over. And, it just comes down to, as I tell the team, I've told you, there's 1 or 2 plays that can change the outcome of a game, but it's not always the most obvious ones. It's not just the ones that everybody, can remember. There's things that happen in that game that, we have a screen, we have pressure, we dump it, we have a hat on a hat. I mean, I'm not saying it's a definite touchdown, but there's a really good chance that's going to be a touchdown. And it's not. Instead, I believe we get 0. So those are the things, you just can't do. A really good 2 top 10, top 15 teams playing on the road in the SEC. I mean, I know it's a broken record, but it's true. It's just the execution of things like that. And that's routine. When you have a routine play dialed up, set, and do it, and you got to make the routine look routine. And, so, it's just things of that nature that we just fell short.
Does it feel okay?
Now, the other side, Shane, I mean, like I said, hey, the Gamecocks, they're feeling good. Back-to-back blowouts. Now, hell, you didn't play anybody with a pulse, but they, they come into the season, we were as guilty as anybody, Shane, hyping this team up. That was probably the most hyped team at media days on what is to come for the Gamecocks. Did not live up to that massive hype, but they put that behind them. It has not led to a slide. Sometimes these teams, Shane, they come out, they don't live up to the hype, and then they're just garbage, and they can never get over the hump. This is South Carolina's opportunity to right the ship, because no one cares what you do against South Carolina State and Charlotte and all that. You're supposed to kill those teams. So, you killed them, good for you. Here's a cookie. But this is what you got to do. You got to get over Kentucky. Otherwise, this is just the same old South Carolina where, maybe they could be the 4th best team in the East. You're at the bottom till you can overcome Kentucky, because you've got also Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, all that in front of them. But I'll tell you, Shane Beamer seems pretty loose, feeling pretty good, and if they can get Spencer Rattler to play it a little bit better, I mean, this is a dangerous team, don't you think?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, you cannot, like, we watched Missouri and Georgia go toe to toe last week. I mean, how can you can't sleep on any team right now, especially South Carolina. Things haven't been going great. Obviously we're beating cupcake teams. That's what we're expecting, but we're also expecting you to win games like Kentucky. We're also expecting you to win games like Missouri. These games are coming up. There's going to be some games that if you play great, you can win. And I think that's where South Carolina wasn't, but I think that's where they are now. Is that this is a program that if you come in there expecting to win, or you don't practice near as hard, you're gonna walk away with a loss and wondering, where did we screw up here? That's the Gamecocks have got some weapons, brother. They have got plenty of talent. I really think this Lloyd's really starting to take off. SEC starting to notice just how great he is. If they could keep that going and get some Spencer some confidence and maybe a little bit of chemistry with these receivers, who knows? Anything can happen in the SEC, But again, on the other side, brother, you got the Kentucky Wildcats, and if I'm Coach Stoops, I'm saying, man, we could still go to the SEC championship. I know that sounds crazy, but we're still a top 15 team. We lost to Ole Miss. We blew that one. But if we went out and we beat the Georgia Bulldogs, we beat Tennessee Vols, we beat South Carolina this week, we can easily go to Atlanta and redeem ourselves. So you're not out anything. This game is sold out. It's a night game. It's a 2-score favorite. It's going to be electric. So be sure to tune into this one, because I think we got ourselves a little dogfight here.
Well, and let's kick it over to Beamer, Shane, who again, he seems pretty loose going. I mean, he's making fun of Nick Saban. He's telling recruiting stories. I mean, this is a good old time right here.
Hey, Shane, the fans seem to have this one circled for a while now, whether it's, the comments from Mark Stoops in the offseason or, losing 7 out of the last 8 to Kentucky. Do you guys feel that too, that this one seems to be a little bit more important?
they're all important, and that's not coach speak. I mean, it's anytime you get back in the SEC, it's critical as well. And we've got great respect for their program, and this is a game that was a big game when I was here before. I mean, I remember, I think I talked about it last week, was the Kentucky coming in here nationally ranked on a Thursday night and us winning. And then all you guys that were here remember, I mean, we beat Alabama. They were number 1 in the country. And then I'm still having visions of Randall Cobb on fourth down or whatever it was on a game-winning touchdown pass. I mean, this game's always been competitive, and I think it's two programs that have a lot of respect, for each other. And it's certainly a critical game for us. It's the next one on the schedule. And we had a heck of a game with them last year and couldn't quite finish and get over the hump and win that game. And I know our guys are excited for the challenge this week.
Shane, I know you told us that before the Charlotte game, you told the guys to go out and just have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you've had 2 blowout wins. So I guess I want to know, are the guys a little more relaxed now? Are they having more fun? Not that they weren't having fun before, but just being able to enjoy themselves a little more, especially during games.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I felt like, those first 3 games, not that there was pressure on us, but it was almost like feeling like you had to make every play and not being able to just go relax and have fun. And we want to work really, really hard during the week and prepare really, really well during the week so that we can go out on Saturdays and just turn it loose and have fun and not worried about making mistakes. And I think our guys have done that the last couple weeks, and this week will be no different. You prepare really, really hard, but Saturday night, SEC Saturday night game, under the lights, on the road, national television. I mean, what more could you want? I mean, that should be exciting and should be fun. And want our guys to have fun playing with each other and playing with passion and celebrating with each other as well. And now you got to go play well in order to do that. But I think so, Rick. I mean, I think they've they know that we have a good football team and we haven't played our best, and we're still striving to play our best on all 3 phases. But next Saturday night's the next opportunity, and I think our guys are excited to go do that.
Yeah, just talking about Kentucky a little bit. They've got 3 wide receivers that they throw to quite a lot of speed on the outside. How are you guys going about defending it, and I guess what are you telling your safeties and DBs this week?
Yeah. You want me to be like Coach Saban yesterday when he got asked that question about what he was going to do with the quarterback, and he's like, what do you want me to do, give you the plan? Similar. No, we were looking at him, and then Dane Key, we tried to recruit here last year and felt like we had a good opportunity until I got word that when Kentucky beat Florida last year, that Dane's mom was at the game and leaped over the wall and like broke her foot or something storming the field after Kentucky beat Florida. So I felt like we had a pretty good chance. But note to self, like when the recruit's mom injures a foot storming the field, you're probably not going to get that guy at your school. That's the story I was told. So if that's not true, I'm sorry, Miss Key, but that's what I heard. But he's a great young man, and those 3 guys.
So you get a good sense of that he's loose for what that's worth. If his team is this loose, Shay, this is why I think South Carolina has. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but I'm saying I like the chance. I like the odds of them playing better than we've seen them against the likes of Georgia and Arkansas, if that makes sense.
No, I do too, and this, like, I don't know how many times we got to say it. The crazy thing is when they do shine, it usually is against a team that nobody's watching,
right?
And then when we watch them against Georgia, we're like, golly, South Carolina sucks, or it's like you're not giving. They have got some playmakers, they just have not had opportunities to exploit that against better teams, but just as soon as you count a program like that out, they come, like I said, they come out and they punch you in the mouth. So I think you cannot sleep on the Gamecocks. They've had plenty of time to think about this game, talk about this game plan. This is a big game for South Carolina. This is a game that Beamer probably isn't supposed to win, but he knows if he does, it's going to get him a lot of good graces back home. So this is a very, very important game for them as well. So that's why I just think it's going to be a dogfight, because South Carolina has nothing to lose. Kentucky's the one that has things to lose. You know what I'm saying? Right. Gamecocks are just out there to have fun and try to win some games and upset some teams, man.
Now, final game we're going to break down here, Shane. my favorite West team versus your favorite West team, Arkansas, on the road at Mississippi State. This could be one heck of a game, Shane. It seems like these two always go down to the wire. Mike Leach, Sam Pittman, two of the best coaches in the league. Sam Pittman's 2-0 against Mike Leach. Still don't know. KJ Jefferson, he may have had a concussion. They're kind of keeping it quiet. Don't know if he's going to be able to play in this ball game, which would certainly change things. But, hey, they've got Malik Hornsby there that I think they feel pretty good about. They got the kid Renfro that they played against Alabama. So we don't even know who it would be if KJ Jefferson can't go. But on the other side, Shane, Mississippi State, my God, they lived up to the hype. What we were praising them for all off season. This is a dangerous, dangerous team. And now that you've righted the ship, you play like you did last week. I'm not saying they're going to win out or anything because they do got Alabama left. They do got Georgia. But, man, I think, the sky's the limit for this Mississippi State team if they play like they did last week. Don't you think?
I tell you what, nobody's playing better ball right now than Mississippi State, and that's what makes them dangerous, man. I mean,
yeah.
you look at you were asking quarterbacks earlier. Will Rogers, don't think he wasn't floating around, or Stetson Bennett. Those guys kind of lingering out there, and you don't realize how great a quarterback they are until you're facing them.
Mm-hmm.
We're 5 games in, and he's averaging almost 300 yards a game. He's got 19 touchdowns. This is a dangerous. And then you watch the receivers. That's what I love about Mississippi State. They're all different. Every single receiver is out. They all got their own little thing, and you got some big body skinny guys. You got some fast little guys. It's like, don't even learn all their names. Doesn't matter because Will Rogers will find them if they're open. So Mississippi State is extremely dangerous, and the fact that the Pirate is exploring running now, oh my God, man, watch out. And if this defense can keep playing like they're doing, I don't want to play them. I tell you what, I'm glad we don't have them this year at Tennessee fans. So, but Mississippi State's a dangerous program.
Yeah, I'm glad you hit on Zach Arnett's defense, Shane, because I wanted to ask you about that real quick because, man, against Texas A&M, I felt bad for Max Johnson. He was getting walloped left and right. It was not even a surprise that he got injured. How often he was getting hit and getting left out to dry. And, if not for Devon Awchain, they would have got completely swarmed on that side of the ball because Mississippi State tenacious going after it. If it is KJ Jefferson, he's got to be on the lookout because this is a swarming defense. Now, that potentially is Arkansas's silver lining here. We all know how great they are at running the football. I think that's what you got to do. That's the best way to attack Mississippi State. Limit their possessions. Limit Will Rogers' passing attempts, so to speak. So, in that sense, I like this matchup for Arkansas. Where I don't like it, of course, their passing defense has been dreadful this year. And my goodness, we know that's Mississippi State's specialty. So you got to hope if you're Arkansas that you can get after Will Rogers. The tackles are, I don't want to call them a liability because they held up against A&M last week, but that is where Arkansas is going to have the advantage on the defensive side of the ball, trying to get to Will Rogers. If they can force some fumbles or maybe some errant throws, that may be their best opportunity to win this football game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do want to ask you, though, is there, because you asked me about the hangover effect of Tennessee and Florida. Is there a hangover effect here with Arkansas? Because don't get me wrong, I think Arkansas is still a great program. I still think they should be a top 25 team.
Yeah.
They're assuming KJ is healthy. If KJ's out here, are you worried at all? Because I'm afraid that we're about to hit a spiral. I've seen it before. We've seen it with a lot of programs that had high expectations.
Yeah,
they've lost 2 heartbreakers here back to back. There's no give up in this team, is there?
I don't think so, Shane. But you're right. This has happened before. Now, to Arkansas's credit, it was last year. They lost to Georgia. It was humiliating, kind of like Alabama last week. They lost to Ole Miss, which was a heartbreaker, kind of like A&M. So, this has happened before, and I believe they dropped the next one to Auburn. And then I don't think they lost another game the rest of the way. So, I think they have it in them to rebound from this, but it is a real worry, no doubt, because the defense, all of a sudden, you lost guys here. You've had the transfers, of course. The secondary just does not even resemble what it has in recent seasons. I think even KJ Jefferson, I don't know if he's hurt or what, but the last 2 games, he's not really played as well as we anticipate. He has got to play better than what he has, and that's even if he suits up, because we know what we're getting from Will Rogers. He is, like you say, he's going to throw for 300 yards. He's going to throw for probably minimum 3 touchdowns against his defense.
Mm-hmm.
So KJ has got to answer that, and that may not even be enough to get the win. That's what you're going to need to be competitive in this ball game. So, yeah, I am certainly worried about Arkansas going into this matchup. I'm not totally worried about them caving or anything, but it's just this is the toughest stretch of their season, and they have got to answer the bell. Otherwise, Mississippi State, they'll embarrass you.
Coach, after the win, you entered both major polls at number 23. What is your opinion of polls, and is it just a good conversation piece, or is it something you take pride in?
I pretty much ignore them. Just try to go to the next one. Been busy, watching film all night, and that'll happen again tonight. So I'm kind of preoccupied with that. There's no real, stopping point on the poll thing. So, just try to worry about what's right now and what you can control. And that's, today it's put together the best game plan you can. Tomorrow it's have the best practice you can, and so it goes,
Arkansas defensive coordinator Barry Odom, someone you've faced plenty of times in your career. What have you kind of seen from Arkansas's defense this season? Is that kind of similar to what you've seen from Odom's defenses in the past?
Yeah, I think it's similar. He's got his package that he's worked for years to, refine and put together. And there's some changes here or there, I think, to accommodate the players he's got. And then, but I don't think he's going to reinvent something new, because he spent, well over a decade developing this one. So.
Got an early kickoff this week. What would be your top 5 items to take to an early morning kickoff tailgate?
Well, some will bring Bloody Marys, I imagine. Let's see, top 5 to early morning, huh? Probably a comfortable chair, a lawn chair, to get a little sleep in before kickoff. You would definitely want, something good to eat, energize you, but that's quick and easy. 5, huh? Shoot, I don't know. Yeah, well, you definitely want that. Definitely want that. Definitely some level of stimulant. You need your sunglasses for sure. And then, and now probably if you're really having a good time, you're going to have a long after the tailgate thing too. So you're definitely going to want a good TV set up or somebody have one, or one of those screens out there on the lawn to watch the other games, because you're going to be done before most of them.
Their personnel. What did you think of what Mississippi State was able to do to them? Beat them. I know they forced 4 turnovers and beat them pretty decisively.
That would be a big deal in the game. A&M goes down to the 5-yard line and fumbles, and they kick a field goal, and it goes back for a touchdown, and then their starting quarterback got hurt, and there's a lot of things that happen. All of those things happen because Mississippi State made them happen. I get that, but it was a tight game there, and basically on the field goal that was blocked back for a touchdown, kind of put the game out of hand. But they play so hard. This is a really good football team, and they play so hard, and obviously they can score points. But they're going to cause you problems on offense if you're not ready for all this movement and all the blitzing that they do and all this total blitz that they do. And they have players that can do it. You got really good football players, guys that have played. I love their linebacker group. I think they're really good. It starts with Johnson, but Watson and Wheat, they're all really good players, and they use them well, and they're really good at special teams. I mean, they have made a difference in a lot of games just on special teams alone. So they're playing. They're hot right now.
You mentioned that Fortin's been your number 2 quarterback for a few weeks now. What is Malik's role going forward, and does he maybe do more receiver, or how does that change for him?
Well, he's a quarterback. I mean, he's a quarterback as well. You know, certainly the plan for him to play wide receiver has not been even what I thought it would be. But the plan is for him to play quarterback.
Coach, you're going to torture everybody's ears this week in practice with cowbells piped in, all that stuff?
Well, that's probably the plan. We're only going to do it in team settings today. We're going to cut them some slack during 7-on-7, but team settings we certainly will.
I think I got this.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Here's another one. Going into the season, we're like, well, maybe this is the year they beat Alabama. And now we're like, how did they upset Mississippi State? We're 5 weeks in.
But that's
why we love it. That's why the
Exactly.
SEC football is so awesome, man. And it's still, in 5 more weeks, we may look back and say, well, what were we thinking?
Exactly. I mean, and just last week, Shay, we were laughing off Missouri. We were laughing at Auburn. Of course, they both lost. But hell, I mean, they had leads in the game. They nearly won it as big-time underdogs. And I swear, we won't be able to predict it, but it'll happen again this weekend, Shane, with some of these games. But, I saved some of the other games, Shane, for the next episode because there's just too much SEC action to put it all into one show. But you got anything else before we hop off the line, brother?
No, man, this is, again, it's going to be a fantastic weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to think how many sick days I got left. I think I'm about to go ahead and call it in. But I'm afraid he's listening, my boss, Oh, man, there better not be any wags. If I see one of these SEC koozies at a wedding, I
send it back.
Send it back. Just send it back. We'll pay for it. So, but no, I'm pumped up, ready to rock and roll, brother, and I look forward to it. We're gonna have some more content for you tomorrow, guys. If you've got the iPhones and the reviews really help us out, 5-star reviews. We'd love to send you a beer koozie. We see them every weekend. It's so nice seeing them at the games.
Yep.
It's nice seeing them at in front of the TV. Some of them call them good luck charms. Say what you want. Maybe it's going to win you a natty. So, but get that review in. Mike will do all the legwork from there, and then I just love seeing them on the Twitters there.
Yeah, that's classic Shane. Throw it out there. Leave me to do all the work. But, hey, I'm happy to do it. That's just our way of saying thanks to each and every one of you for supporting the show and giving us that 5-star rating and review. But that's going to do it, Shane, for this episode. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.